lounging, son.
Welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name's Ryan, and today I'm going to be going through a classic issue of Swamp Thing from the much celebrated run with the late great Len Wein and the late great Bernie Wrightson, two legendary creators responsible for creating one of my favorite DC characters of all time. Recently, had bought the Absolute editions of Alan Moore's run. Also reviewed book one of that same Alan Moore run with Stephen Bissett and John Toddleben on our, the weekly podcast we do. So it kind of, made me want to dig this issue out. It's the only issue that I have from this run, and I've had it for quite a while. So reading it again, was really cool to kind of compare it to the run that would take place 10 years after this specific issue, since this took place in 74. The differences in the design of Swamp Thing, not quite as detailed as it would become, and just a really fun story. While it leans into a little bit of horror, not as heavy as Alan Moore's run, but still a great comic. So this is issue 9 from that run. We start off on this train, people down on their luck, sneaking onto this train, and one of them try to rob this person that's covered up in this blanket, this hood. And as it says here, apparently the silent sleeper does not like being disturbed, and we learn that it is Swamp Thing. And like I said, design way different. You don't see much of like the vines or the leaves or the moss on his body like you would see later on with Stephen Bissett and John Toddleben's take on the character. This story is, since I haven't read this run, I've only seen bits and pieces and reprints or stuff. It's crazy to see how different this is, because the Swamp Thing I started with was, like I said, Saga of Swamp Thing 21. Way different, in terms of how he was portrayed. In that run, we're led to believe that Swamp Thing isn't even really Alec Holland. It's the swamp that had kind of taken on the memories of Alec Holland. And I won't go too much into detail. Highly recommend that run, pick that up. But this one is strictly like a Frankenstein's monster. Alec Holland is trying to cure himself, and really plays into that. I would almost compare it to kind of like with Hulk. Hulk was constantly trying to, get rid of his angry side and cure himself. Now, while you don't have that as much with Alec Holland, he just wants to be human again. And that's a common theme through most Swamp Thing comics, is his desire to find his humanity. And that's one of the things that really appeals to me about the character. And then we get Matt Cable, Abigail Cable, who's really Abigail Arcane. Anton Arcane being one of Swamp Thing's, I would consider him Swamp Thing's Joker, in terms of arch enemy. And, Matt Cable works for some sort of agency, and they're looking for a UFO that happens to be in the swamps near where Swamp Thing lives. So since he's the go-to guy in terms of keeping an eye on Swamp Thing and Alec Holland, he gets tasked with looking for this UFO. Since it takes place where Alec was created, he's going back to where Swamp Thing all began, and that's the old converted barn where he, as Alec Holland, was doing his research as a botanist. And when he gets there, he sees this spaceship, and all this equipment that was left has now been dismantled to repair the ship. So he, obviously angry, thinking that this is his last chance to become human again, he attacks this mysterious, weird-looking alien. And the design by Wrightson is it's pretty weird, and you'd think of if it's gonna be a UFO, you're gonna actually see the alien, but for the entirety of this, we don't even see the alien outside of this suit that it's wearing. We only see this weird face, kind of bug-eyed creature. I just really love Wrightson's work, especially you can see even in an older comic, you can still see that his mastery of the anatomy and how he really knows the human figure, and even though obviously Swamp Thing's not human, but he's a humanoid swamp creature. There's only two artists that I really love in terms of Swamp Thing, and it's Bernie Wrightson and of course Stephen Bissett. Swamp Thing angry, he decides to attack the creature. So obviously that this alien is gonna fight him back. Thinking that like if this alien thinks he's gonna keep him from achieving his hopes and dreams, he's dead wrong. But as the fight, as it goes, we see that Swamp Thing ends up knocking the starship. It lands on him. It discusses that the alien almost has like regret and takes Swamp Thing back to the swamps, lays him down, saying that if the alien if believes in some supreme deity, maybe this is the alien offering up a prayer for Swamp Thing's soul, and walking back remorsefully, um, almost in shame, back towards its work to fix his spaceship. And that's like the basically that's the common theme of this is that the alien isn't attacking Swamp Thing, it's only doing it in self defense because the same thing happens when these soldiers, led by Matt Cable, come and immediately they attack the alien to, get its technology, its contempt prior to investigation, right? Like they don't even try to communicate, they don't even try to talk. They just take what they want and throw caution to the wind. They don't care. They're going to get it by any means necessary. And once again, as the alien's like defending itself, now the team of agents, they're even saying that it's moving as if it regrets what it's done. And immediately they take the seize the opportunity and trap the alien with handcuffs, tie it up to a tree, go back and forth discussing how they should do it. Should they just kill the alien? They to get all this technology. In the meantime, as this is all going down, Swamp Thing comes back to life. He thought he was dead after, getting crushed by the spaceship. And then the bog is teeming with those chemicals that created him, revives him. And he goes off to get the alien again and kind of get his revenge. And as he's doing that, he's witnessing the team and discussing what they should do with it. Some think they should kill it, others think saying that it's their duty to kill the monster before it infects the world with its poison. And then you have one soldier saying, you're afraid of progress, like this alien could teach us, like how you don't even realize that. And I think it's such a poignant theme in here. You have opposing ideas of one person wanting to go the darker route and just like get rid of him and steal his stuff, and the other one like, hey, we can learn from this person. And that's just a pretty heavy theme to think about, like in just a single issue story. Like you have everything you need in this comic. You don't need the ones before, while those are great, and you don't need the ones after, while those are great as well. But this is a completely self-contained story, and just teaching us this message that you know you don't always need to go in hot. Like sometimes it's good to just pause and analyze the situation instead of just immediately being on the attack. One of the soldiers had tried to kill the alien. Swamp Thing comes and saves him, takes him away, and because of that shot fired, the agents start fighting against each other as Swamp Thing is saving the alien and taking him back to the ship. And I love this panel right here saying, no words need be spoken here. The alien places its extremity upon the mossy man brute's shoulder in a universal gesture, and it has a rather singular effect. Swamp Thing leaves, and now that the alien has had some time, has now been able to learn the language, and even says, I came in peace, but instead I've only found violence. Landed there by an accident, a victim of a cosmic storm, and all he needed was help in repairing his ship, and he would have given much in return. But now all he has is pity. And you can only like imagine, especially like events going on in the world nowadays, how would an alien race perceive humans? And that in itself is kind of an interesting theme also that's played out in here in such a small story. But Len Wein, Bernie Wrightson together, they just craft such an awesome story. I recommend this to all Swamp Thing fans. This is this is why Swamp Thing is such an awesome character to me, because it is at the core of it searching for humanity, and in that we get so many awesome stories that come from this. Before we get out of here, it's interesting here because like in the I read a little bit of the letters column, but it says, to everyone who's been sending in requests for back issues, please, we have no facilities for storing back copies, much less for processing individual orders. There's no dealer, to our knowledge, selling Swamp Thing back copies at a reasonable price, so we prefer not to forward your requests. Sorry. And that's just, it's interesting to think, because like this is 74. I mean, I'm sure comic book stores had started but weren't really like booming as they would later in a couple decades to come. But just really cool Swamp Thing comic. How could you not like this issue? Beautiful Bernie Wrightson cover, Len Wein on script. Highly recommend picking this book up. And if you're not already following us, make sure you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at The Comic Lounge. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And hit the bell icon so you're notified every time a new episode goes up. And on that note, I'm out.